Success in farming is all about precision and efficiency, ensuring every seed, every drop of water, every nutrient and treatment counts. TerraPlex Ag is helping farmers all over Iowa and the Midwest do just that. With precision ag drone technology and support from TerraPlex, you'll boost your productivity and make timely and informed decisions, all while reducing your costs and increasing your profit. It's time to revolutionize your farming. Harvest the benefits with TerraPlex Ag. Visit TerraPlexAg.com.
My name is Joseph Hurst. I live in Ankeny, Iowa, and I'm a part of the PMBA program. I currently work as the Director of Sales at Stony Creek Hotels in Johnston, Iowa, and I chose the Iowa State MBA program because it just made perfect sense. About 2 years ago, I started this wonderful program, and I couldn't imagine not having done it. What has helped the most balance work, life, school has been the people I'm in class with. It's great to go through questions, problems, study for tests, and it just makes the whole class so much easier. As a working professional thinking about doing an MBA program, I get night classes aren't everybody's dream. I get after a long day of work, you may not want to go do more, but it's worth it. You're going to learn a lot, not just from the professors in the program, but from the other students. They come from all walks of life. They are from different age groups. They're from different companies. They're from all kinds of different backgrounds. They've got all kinds of different stories. And after 2 years, I've made some of the best friends I've ever made, learned the most I've ever learned, and I can't imagine what we're going to do after we're done.
Chris Williams, Brent Blum, from the Wild Rose Casino Studio. It's Williams and Blum, presented by Mechdyne, on the Cyclone Fanatic Podcast Network.
What is up? Excuse me. It's the 2nd of February. I haven't been able to talk for 2 weeks.
That thing saw
Man.
a shadow today, by the way. That thing did. Yeah.
I saw that. Are your kids as obsessed with it as mine?
Yeah. Yeah, woke me up this morning.
Yeah, Elise was like, we have to go watch the
Yeah.
news. I'm like, why? I heard the groundhog.
It's like after yesterday, I could have told you that they was seeing a shadow.
Yeah, welcome to the program. Honestly, one of the craziest days of Big 12 basketball I can remember. And unfortunately, we were right in the smack dab in the middle of it.
In the thick of it. Yeah.
Ooh. We'll get to all of that in today's show. Quick turnaround. So we are recording early on Sunday because the Kansas game on Monday. Give you guys something to chew on until then. It is about 11 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. Usually we record in the evening. Always thinking about you guys. Welcome to the program. We are presented, as always, by our friends at Mechdyne and the Mechdyne Corporation. Sounds like we have Mechdyne hats on the way.
Nice.
We can wear on the program, which will be great. I'd love to do that. I could use a bottle of Cody Road today after that display of basketball I watched yesterday in Hilton Coliseum. And it made it so much worse that it just happened to be against Kansas State.
Oh.
You lose to Texas Tech like that, it's like, whatever. Tang is just so easy to dislike him. But I got to give the guy credit, too.
100%.
Because they were reeling, and Kansas State now, if you look at Bartorvik, like they're one of the best teams in the league in the last month as far as that goes. And they just flat out came in and kicked Iowa State's ass. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I do like a lot of problems with Iowa State right now that we'll talk about, but I'm also a eat crow and give your opponent credit. And he's done a really good job to have them in a position where if they keep winning like this, and they get Kansas at home coming up next weekend, they could be a bubble type team where that seemed impossible about a month ago. So. Yeah, it just sucks that it happened to be against them when Iowa State not only loses its home winning streak, but wasn't really in the game, and that's hard. That's a tough pill to swallow.
No doubt. That was in the TJ era the worst home performance in my opinion Iowa State has had. I mean, that was bad. I mean, there's no other way to you can't find a whole lot. There is no positives out of that. Whatever happened on Saturday.
No.
And you're right. K-State was just better. They were better. They played harder. They were tougher. Their game plan was really good, and they beat Iowa State. Simple as that. I mean, I've been as difficult on Jerome Tang as anybody, and I agree, Chris. The guy did an awesome job having that team ready to go in that environment, and tip your cap for real. He can be unlikable, but you still have to give credit when it's due. And that guy had him ready to go, and
they didn't flinch, man. That crowd was brutal at the beginning, and Tang played it off. I think as good as he could have. He, it was a deal where when Iowa State goes 3 of 3 from 3 to start. The chances, what were the chances at that point that they're going to lose that game by 19? Like, slim to none.
0.
Yeah.
I thought that thing was going, I thought we were looking at 20-2, 30-10, and then K-State just mails it in like they have all year, and they didn't. They came right back. And interestingly, I think, looking at that first 3 minutes, it may have been some false confidence for Iowa State because Iowa State makes the first 5 threes in that game. Went 5 for 5 to start.
Were they really?
Yeah.
I didn't realize they made their first 5.
Yep.
Okay.
And largely, I don't know if it was like a false sense of confidence from out there because Iowa State still shot it fairly well percentage-wise for the game, but got destroyed inside in the paint in the first half, like completely destroyed. It was 15-0 in the paint at one point.
Those damn second chance points, man.
Oh, huge. I mean,
that was the game.
That's the thing in the aughts era, which we've come to kind of just expect, and that was Iowa State is always going to be tougher and rebound and be really good in the paint. And they got owned in there yesterday, completely. And that's just not something you've been able to say in the aughts era. And more than anything, C-Dub, I think that's the frustration TJ showed was evident, clearly. That's as explosive as he has been during a game on the sideline. And, yes, I thought the officiating was bizarre, but I
thought it was just bad all the way around.
Yeah.
It was just a bad crew. I think Kansas State fans probably thought that group sucked yesterday.
When I haven't seen all of them, I've only seen 2 of those, or 2 of those I've never seen before. I don't know where they came from.
It made me text you because Hines texted me. He's like, "Have you heard of any of these guys?" And I was like, "No." And then I asked Randy Peterson, who's been around forever, and he didn't know who those guys were.
They were not the regulars, so they're probably some of the new guys that they've kind of brought in. But anyway, it wasn't great. But then that TJ technical was, I think he was just upset with his team more than anything.
Well,
and he was trying to get him going.
My read on that was that he was trying to get it about 2 minutes earlier.
Yeah, for sure. When
before that thing had gotten out of hand, I thought that he was trying to get it when they were down by like 10. Just the old throw some energy into this.
The Bill
place.
Self method. Yeah,
because he just here's the thing, he doesn't accidentally lose composure.
No,
that's just not who he is. And he studies this. He's very deliberate about what he does with officials. And the 2 minutes leading up to that, I mean, it was demonstrative as you've seen him ever.
Yep.
Ever. Towards an official. And I also think that my psychology on it is that, TJ probably realizes that, like, Bill Self can do things to an official that he can't, right? Like, Self can do things that Tang can't, like, because he's Self. Like, Roy Williams can do that. Like,
100%. There's a barrier
with
there.
That crew yesterday, I think you may feel a little more like I could probably get away with a lot more here, be a little more aggressive, right? Do you read into that too? That's how I saw that.
Well, I don't. I'm guessing TJ didn't know those guys either. I mean, I've never seen them before. I mean,
no.
so maybe you don't.
State did. Just because I thought it was weird. My seat is right by the visiting team's bench.
Okay.
And the officials were like hugging the Kansas State staff before the game, so they had seen them before. But whatever. I mean, we're not,
yeah.
It was just a weird game.
It was
on that TJ technical though. My full read is that, and I watched it back. I think he was trying to get that for 2 minutes.
No doubt.
And then he finally was like, all right, damn it. And now I'm going to run out on the court because you won't give me this damn technical.
Give me the technical.
So I'm going to make you give me one.
Yep, 100%. That's
how
100%.
I read that.
I think you're dead on.
Because he was trying to get his team, like, and in result, and it did work. It did work. It's just, you go on this 10-0 run, starting to feel good, and then you have stupid turnovers and you give up more second chance points, and
layups. I mean, it was unfortunate how many layups McDaniel, excuse me, just got to the rim over and over again in the second half, and you just haven't seen that with Iowa State's defense over the last couple of years. I don't know, I'd have to go back and rewatch. Like, he's a really good player, but Iowa State just looks slow. It looked slow defensively and on the glass yesterday.
They look tired and sluggish.
Is it legs? Is it the hangover from the Arizona result? Potentially. I mean, I think all of that adds in. The issue is, C-Dub, there's no time. You play on Monday. Like, you can't just be tired. Everybody's tired. And you got to find that second level. And I thought in particular, Iowa State's posts just looked tired.
Mm-hmm.
And the guards didn't do enough to help out. And Iowa State just needs Jackson, Jefferson, and Chatfield to be more of a presence in there. I mean, they just weren't good enough early in that game, and it kind of threw everything off. And then
it was it to Coleman Hawkins. He made him look
and he
bad.
Was really good.
He
looked
like
money,
the best
baby.
post on the floor. I mean, we're talking about Jefferson and first team All Big 12 and all that stuff. Man, you watched those two yesterday, and one guy was clearly a lot better.
Yep.
And I give him credit because he's taking a lot of shit. We all know about the NIL thing, and he was a really good player. And
he was great.
And
hopefully,
what do you do for your Iowa State? Hopefully, it wakes you the hell up. I don't know. I do know that we have seen this every year in the Otzelberger era, and I just I don't know what the answer is, but is this just part of the deal? Like, we hear about the soccer field workouts and just the hell that is the Otzelberger offseason, and we praise them for it because that's their identity and all that. Is this just a
byproduct of that?
I don't know. I'm trying to think of things, but literally every year we've covered TJ's program, there's this 2-week stretch in January or February, usually like right around now, where the world is seemingly coming to an end. And, you just hope and pray that was the rock bottom. It can't get worse than that. Like that was just – and when they were 6 of 9 of 3 at halftime and down 2, I was like, uh-oh. That's not good.
And that's
not good.
The Iowa State's identity is first and foremost tough and in the paint. And they got beat at their own game by Hawkins and Gasson. Those guys were really good, and I think it's a wake-up call. If Arizona – I think you could get away from the Arizona game. Well, that was just,
Well, they deserve to win that game.
Yeah, but if you go –
they did everything that they got beat on a miraculous shot. I mean, that sucked. We talked about it on Wednesday. But then, that there's nothing, like you said, positive to come from losing by 19 at home.
0. And then if you go back and watch the Arizona game again, though, C-Dub, there were times where they got beat on the glass a lot. And I think that's the concerning theme for me right now is, how many offensive rebounds did Awaka have in that game? The big guy for Arizona. This is now, you look at the Arizona State game, this is now becoming a deal where you're not doing a great enough job of cleaning up the glass. And that is an area where Iowa State has to be good, because it just leads to everything else. And those big guys, and this is 100% true, this is their first foray into the long grind of a Big 12 season.
Mm-hmm.
We talked
about all that stuff. Yeah.
We talked about it before the season started. I think the biggest question mark is how will these posts adjust to the Big 12? And early, awesome. I mean, look at the returns early. This is it's a long season. Plus, this year you've got 2 more games, right? So this is part of it.
And your non-con was, you're playing Auburn, you're playing, right?
And by the way, which we haven't brought up yet, Momchilovich is out, and he's another post-ish.
And you have
give
to
you minutes.
You're 3-3 without him.
You have to factor that in. It's a huge factor. It's not just minutes. It's literally spacing the floor, getting more driving lanes, and Momchilovich is he's 6'8", right? Like he can give some minutes, and I think the last 2 games you've seen, specifically Curtis, look a little tired. He's just not quite the same.
He's getting scouted too.
They're beating him up.
Tang did the same thing to him that Arizona did.
And they had the
that's
guards
what's
to do it.
terrifying on Monday is that, Kansas is coming off of a loss, and I don't think Kansas is that good for Kansas standards this year, but I do think that they had the physicality and the wherewithal to F you up offensively if
100%.
they're motivated, and they will do that on Monday night.
Yeah, so that is the concern, and you're not going to have Momcilovic back. It sounds like maybe C-Dub the Cincinnati game was kind of the hope, but it's there's no doubt there's a correlation. That is not an excuse for Iowa State getting beat up by the way they did in the glass, though. I mean, that can't happen regardless of him.
And I do think this drives me nuts about fans, and I also realize that it's the vocal minority, and it doesn't stand. But when you talk about Momcilovic and then they yell at us to quit making excuses, it's not an excuse. At some point you have to assess who you truly are. Without Momcilovic, they're 3-3.
Yes,
you may not like it, but it's a fact. They are 3-3 without him in the lineup. So whatever it's doing, it clearly is making a difference across the board.
Chris, look, you talked about it yesterday online. Look at Iowa State's offensive efficiency, how much it's dropped since.
Yeah, I mean they've cratered.
And there's a dead-on correlation of even when Momcilovic isn't making shots, he is making an impact by occupying people.
In yesterday's game, if Watson and Jefferson pop out, they're giving them the shot. And right now, Iowa State has 4 guys or 3 that are playing that are absolute zeros on offense.
That's a problem. Yep.
I know the crowd loves Watson. He's given us great minutes with rebounding. Fantastic. Great story. They are letting him do whatever they like. There's a reason why when him, Heisey, and Chatfield are on the floor, and I don't know what the answer is. You can't just play your 6 guys 38 minutes apiece. The answer is that those guys have to prove that they can do something.
That's
it.
And
Heisey is completely in his own head right now. You can just see it. He's athletic. He's still a good defender, right? And people go, well, why is he playing? I'll tell you why he's playing. Because when you're down by 17 and you get a freaking stop and get in transition, that's the only way you come back and win that game. And Heisey will actually D up and play some perimeter defense. That's why. But the problem is he doesn't attempt a shot again yesterday.
Yeah, that's. If you look at the issues, that's the easiest one to identify because it's literally right in front of you. He's not shooting right now, and you need that floor spacer. And for Watson, Watson's been great.
I'm not complaining about him, but he's not an offensive threat.
You can't rely on him scoring 10. That's just not. That's not. And then then it relies on Keyshawn and Curtis and Taman, and a lot of times then they just over dribble. I mean, it was just kind of this compounding thing yesterday where the big guys weren't great at the rim. The guards were dribbling too much. Everything just seemed congested. They beat the heck out of Curtis, and you end up with how many turnovers? I mean, that, again, not only the bad rebounding, Chris, and you turn it over a crap ton. That's just not – that was not anybody's recipe for success. It's not going to work. I mean, Iowa State deserved to lose by 20 points, and it did. And you can say, well, Iowa State shouldn't lose. You're right. They should not lose by 20 at Hilton, but it happened.
Yeah.
And now it's up to you to figure it out. And I think this team, it's not going a great direction. It's still only February 1st. And you're gonna get Milan back, and these guys will hopefully recalibrate. I think this is a big game Monday for the big guys. I mean, now you're playing Dickinson and Adams again. And if you weren't good against Gasson and Hawkins, well, they got something coming for you at home in Fog. And I think this is a big Jackson and Jefferson and Chatfield have to be better. I think it starts with them to bring the energy. I think the guards will be fine because we've seen it before. My concern right now is those big guys bringing the effort consistently and being as good as they have been. I mean, they've been really good at times. Look at what Joshua has been.
What I didn't like yesterday, I mean, it looked. I hate doing this. It looked like very careless on the defensive glass at times.
For sure.
It really did. Questioning effort is not my place. It felt like there were a few times, and I would not want to be those guys watching film today. And I don't know if that's actually what it was, but it just putting a body on people, just basic things that we've seen them do.
Exactly.
And I don't know. But yesterday was bad. It was one of the worst rebounding games of the entire Otzelberger era.
The great thing, though, about effort-based plays is that's the most easily correctable.
Absolutely. This team still has the talent. It still has the skill. It still has an elite coaching staff. All that stuff is still true.
And I think, the other thing that I always have to remind myself, this isn't college football. Teams go through bad games, weeks, stretches, and can still bounce out of it. I want to remind folks, Connecticut, 2 years ago, when it won its first national championship, C-Dub, Connecticut lost 6 of 8 to start conference play, or in the middle of conference play.
Yeah.
They lost 4 out of 5. They lost 3 in a row. Then turned it on and obviously won the national championship. Like, what you do in late January and February, early February is not indicative of but you cannot let this turn from 2 weeks into everybody loses their confidence before the Big 12 starts, and then they got to get something going from either Milan gets healthy or Nate's just got to give him a little bit more, and then those big guys I think will be okay with some extra attention and rest and all that.
They'll
good
be
stuff.
fine.
Yeah.
I know they'll bounce back. It's just that was a disheartening with
It was.
all the build up to that game.
It was.
And the energy in that place, and it was electric pregame. Students lined up all the way around Hilton. Like, listen, we've been doing this long enough too, or at least I have, where I had a guy, I stopped at a gas station, a fan, a listener, I thought he was going to beat me up. He was so mad. And, like, not kidding. I'm just like, I've learned to, you kind of got to weather the storm in the middle of January and February when it comes to these things, but it still sucks. This thing goes one of 2 ways from here, right? And, I did talk to a couple of people in the program last night who they all said the same thing. I know what their message is from the head coach. We're going to learn from this, and we're going to get better. I love TJ's press conference. If you haven't watched it, you can go on our Cyclone Fanatic
really
YouTube
good.
page. Just completely owns it all. Love that out of the head coach. He's the anti-Bobby Hurley. Get to that in the Whiffles Hybrids Big 12 segment. But, yeah, I want to get to this Kansas game because I could go 2 ways here.
Yep.
And I want to see where you are at. Let's thank our great sponsor, Colin Newell, Farm Bureau Financial Services. Bloom and I both have all of our insurance through Colin. In fact, I got to have a meeting with him to assess everything coming up. And he's fantastic. There's dozens of you who have gotten your insurance through Colin and Farm Bureau Financial Services. Best thing is, you sit down and you'll talk Cyclones, and that's the cool thing about Colin. Diehard, lifelong Cyclone. We appreciate his sponsorship here on Cyclone Fanatic. Also want to thank Andrew Chaplin. He is our real estate agent of choice here on Williams and Bloom. Hunziker Real Estate. Bumped into Denny from Clear Lake yesterday. He came up and got up my rear end about something before the game, and he was telling me about the experience that he had with Andrew Chaplin. Love Denny from Clear Lake and his beautiful wife. And Chappie helped them find an awesome house in Ames because they love going to their Cyclone sporting events, and Chappie's there to do that for them.
Now he's Denny from Ames.
Denny from Ames now. He's always Denny from Clear Lake.
He is.
Let's be honest. Last but certainly not least, I want to thank our friends at the Iowa State University Foundation. Go to MoveWhatMatters.com. We'll be telling you about Forever True Day, which is coming up. We want to set another record and give to areas of campus that matter to all of us. Be a well-rounded Cyclone. Go to MoveWhatMatters.com. This Kansas game, so before they lost to Baylor, you were in this text chain where we have a ride or die group where it's just diehard Iowa State basketball fans, like nutty. And I said to you guys, I go, the play on Monday will be Iowa State only because everybody's going to just be so down on Iowa State that it's like a complete
there.
Yeah, like it's just I don't know if they'll win.
Yeah.
The value will be on Iowa State. Well, then Kansas blows the lead and loses at Baylor. So now, like, okay, part of me
They blew a 20-point. It wasn't just a lead; it was a 20-point lead, and they lost by 11.
Part of me, like, I do think Iowa State is going to be very spirited on Monday. I really do. But the other part of me, I do think while I'm not huge on this Kansas team, and I'm not, I think that you're going up against arguably the best coach in the country. Right now the playbook is out on Iowa State's offense. Like they're not difficult to defend right now. I think Bill Self's going to have a hell of a plan, and he's got the athletes to pull it off. So I think the realistic part of me hates this matchup on Monday night in this particular spot.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. They were a complete no-show.
Dude, they're just not
in
that
the second
good
half
for a Kansas team, right? Can we comfortably say that now?
I think, and honestly, I don't think Self likes his team this year. Like he said a couple things recently. It's like, after the Iowa State game, we played, we had effort, we didn't compete. They give up. They should have lost. I mean, they should have gone to overtime with UCF in the midweek.
They absolutely should have.
They blew the game against Houston, and then that was, Iowa State's performance was the most egregious of the weekend in the Big 12. Kansas was, not quite close, but it was right there. They had a 20-point lead at halftime, and they lost by 11. That is really hard. I
put out a tweet. I put out a tweet just assuming the game was over, and I was totally wrong. Yeah.
They gave up 60 points in the second half.
Unbelievable.
It was like layup after offensive rebound after layup after dunk for Baylor. Kansas gets out rebounded. Speaking of rebounding, 40-27 by an undersized Baylor team. It was like they just kind of gave up in the second half. So yeah, I think this is an interesting matchup of, whoa, who's going to be pissed off more? I mean, for lack of a better term, and then how do you harness that? Because Kansas is. Iowa State's kind of going through it right now. So is Kansas. I mean, Kansas is 6-4, and this is not going well for them. They're really good at home. We all know that. I think this game is super fascinating. I don't know what to make of it. I could see it going any which way. And ultimately, though, I think Iowa State, the thing about Kansas is, yes, they have size, they have athleticism. They have not been physically tough in the past couple of weeks. I mean, they've allowed rim run after rim run to Houston and Baylor and UCF. I'd like to think that Iowa State could be able to do the same, but what the message is from Self today. And it's like, what are we doing, guys? Like, what are we doing? It's the same as TJ of who's going to be tougher. So I think, honestly, CW, you're going to see a fist fight Monday in a respectful fashion, not the Arizona State headbutt or the kick to the nuts and the tech guy. This will be very physical.
It'll be a really good crew.
Yes,
which is good.
It will be because it's a Monday night and there's no other games.
And I also want the fans to know when we talk about the officials, like we're not complaining. Oh, that's why Iowa State lost. But it does when you're good. It really impacts like how you can play and like that crew on Saturday was as bad as I've seen in a conference game. And I think any Kansas State analyst and Jerome Tang to himself would sit here and say the same thing. So that's why it does matter. These Saturdays in college basketball when there's so many games and the officials have to go so freaking deep. God, it was bad on Saturday.
It's not necessarily about the individual calls. It's predictability of what can I do? What is the consistency of what I can do defensively, offensively, on and on and on. Like it's frustrating for a team, and you could see it. Where he gets called for a hand check, and then on the other end, it's what can I do here? And
there was no synergy in that crew too.
Exactly.
You could tell they had no idea who's making the call. Like that was what I saw. Like there was one out of bounds. Happened right in front of the guy, and he pointed at the guy who was standing at half court to make the call.
Did you see it?
It happened right in front of me. I'm like, what in the hell are you guys doing?
Yep. But generally, you'll get, this will probably be a Doug Sermons game. He'll have control of the situation, whether we like him or not.
Yeah.
And, this thing's going to be physical. And because both these teams are going to be desperate.
And they're going to challenge Jackson
100%.
and Jefferson today. Like,
yep.
They got those. That is the move. You challenge those guys. Deshaun Jackson played his best game as a Cyclone against Kansas last time.
Yep. And he was good against Arizona too. But then
he was.
Didn't have it yesterday. And then Jefferson was as poor as he's been in the conference play. And those guys are going to get challenged today, as you said. And it's a big challenge. I mean, Hunter Dickinson, Iowa State did an awesome job with him. He's still a great player, and he was really good yesterday again. He's 7'2". You can't just ignore the guy.
No.
You're gonna get a great effort from him and Badunga, and then Adams is tough. So yeah, I agree. I think this comes down to the post play first and foremost on Monday night, and who's gonna set the tone early.
Iowa State and Kansas will tip off. That is the big Monday game, 8:00 on Monday.
Kansas will be like a 5-point favorite? We're guessing 4-point favorite.
Yeah. The metrics say 3, and I'm guessing that because Iowa State's bad home loss that That's why I said I still think the value will be on Iowa State if it gets up to about 5. But
The good thing here, C-Dub, is they still do not shoot the ball well at all. Kansas doesn't. I mean, it's Zeke Mayo and hope for somebody else. And
with Zeke Mayo, of course, we saw last year in the NCAA tournament for people who forget that.
And he was good names, but they they rely a lot on the post. So that's where I feel matchup-wise, Iowa State matches up really well with Kansas. I think the thing about the K-State game, which I give them a lot of credit, I did not see Hawkins stepping up and making those shots. McDaniel hit a couple daggers. And then that Housen kid.
When he hit the one from
it was like, what do we
the
do?
logo, it was like, oh, man.
He lived it up. He kind of entered villain status. He was doing
about
like
that flop?
The whole – that was bad. That was really
terrible.
Bad. Yeah. Like, if it's that obvious, like, call it. Like, we're calling Taman for the one in Arizona when he literally got hit on the thumb that's broken. But yet we're not calling when the guy just, like – anyway. That's not –
just horrible.
Yeah, but it's going to be – I think Monday, I'm actually glad it's a quick turnaround because you got to be ready to go. They will get on a plane Sunday at 2 o'clock, and they'll be down there and no time to feel sorry for yourself. You're right in the fog, and it is going to be electric Monday.
The other note for Iowa State when you're looking for turnaround opportunities is it's Keyshawn Gilbert. I mean, really, like, the guy he was in the second half against Arizona, like, that's who Iowa State needs.
Yep.
And, it simply wasn't him. He looked frustrated. I thought, on Saturday. And this is where it's like Iowa State was careless with the ball, no doubt. They're turning it over too much. We all know that. But that Kansas State team was tenacious defensively like you expect from Iowa State. And in my mind, like, that's where Iowa State needs to get back to being is that team that – because I just, like, I am at a point where I'm not – I've – my confidence in this offense in the half court is all but shot, okay, until 22 comes back. So how do you weather this storm? And it's got to be just – turning turnovers into points, which they did more, yes, but the problem is when you're turning it over 18 times, like Iowa State's recipe to wins in the past has been we turn you over, but we don't turn it over. That's what but now, like, if you're doing it 18 times 2 and you're giving up 22 second chance points or whatever it is, it's you're shooting yourself in the head. Like, you just can't do it like that. But they got to get back to taking care of the freaking ball, turning the opponent over, and scoring in transition. We didn't think that we would be having this conversation with this team, but here we are. Like, they're just not very good in the half court. And am I wrong? Do you
you're not wrong.
Anything?
I mean, they have been poor since in the UCF game.
The
was
last
kind
6
of
games.
Yeah, an aberration because UCF. I still don't know what that was from UCF. Yeah, it's not the same. You're right. I mean, I think. Sometimes
I'm not throwing in the towel.
No.
I'm just saying, like, how are you going to weather this storm? Like, in my opinion, it's got to be a defensive first mindset.
Yeah, it's just really back to the basics. What got you to where you are, and that is, you can't be giving up 1.14 points per possession to a K-State team. That's not that great offensively. It starts defensively with this team. Just got to be tougher. I mean, you can look at the turnovers and the over-dribbling, and I agree. But you're right, C-Dub. And even a couple times Iowa State did turn them over. Yeah, really sloppy in what they're usually really good on converting those into. I mean, what was that one possession? There's like 4 different turnovers in a row. It's like, what are we doing out here?
Yeah.
It was get the yakety sax music out. But
no, you're
right.
Times too, where K-State would get like 2 or 3 offensive rebounds in one possession.
Yes.
And you just want to scream.
But I think Iowa State's definitely way better than it has been the past couple of years because of Jefferson and Jackson. However, you still can't. You can't rely on that all the time. I mean, you still got to play. You got to play like we always joke about. You have Calster and Brockington again, and you got to create. You got to create everything defensively. If Iowa State gets back to that, I think things will honestly settle down and the efficiency will rise again. Getting Momcilovic back will be a big part of it. But 100% agree. They're making things way too easy on the glass right now, and then too many rim runs from other teams, and that's where Iowa State has been in the odds era elite is guarding the rim and just way too much easy stuff right now.
Go out and buy yourself a 6-pack of Ames Lager for the big game on Monday night with our friends from Westo. You're also supporting the We Will Collective when you do that. I want to thank our friends at the Ivy College of Business, wishing a happy retirement to our friend Dean Spalding, who is Bloom's got his Ivy College of Business coffee mug.
Makes me feel smarter when I drink out of it, like I'm a finance guy or something.
Also, our friends at Kelderman Manufacturing. If you like badass trucks and like cool custom trucks and all that stuff, you should go to Kelderman's YouTube page. I get lost on there, honestly. He does these custom trucks for these celebrities, and it's pretty cool. Go and check him out. Search Kelderman on YouTube. It'll pop right up for you. Let's do our Wiffles Hybrids Big 12 segment. Is Iowa State, believe it or not, was not the only casualty in the Big 12 at the upper echelon yesterday. So this is a game. I had a very busy day yesterday. As we had Bloom was a part of this. We had a surprise birthday party for my wife.
Happy birthday, Ashley.
Happy birthday to Ashley. It is her actual birthday today, the big 4-0. Happy birthday, Ashley. I didn't get to watch much of this Texas Tech-Houston game, but it reminded me, so the one part I did get to watch was the end of regulation, and it reminded me of the Houston-Kansas game where I thought it was over and I thought Houston would win, and we were at dinner. And it was kind of one of those deals, I got to go to the bathroom so I could keep walking by the bar to, check on the score. Yeah. And all of a sudden, it was in overtime. I'm like, wait a minute, I thought this game was over. So what happened here? So somebody got kneed in the nuts.
Oh, man.
Somebody gets ejected. Run us down this Houston-Texas Tech game. And I apologize to our audience. I haven't got to watch this to properly analyze it yet, but it was a busy day, and we wanted to get this podcast out early for you with the Monday game.
Iowa State loses, and then all hell breaks loose in the Big 12.
Yeah, it's and that's another thing. Damn it, if you don't lose yesterday, it really opens some doors for you.
No, so that was as crazy of game as I mean, the Big 12 has been electric in the last 2 weeks. And unfortunately, Iowa State's been on the wrong end of it a couple times. But first 5 minutes of the game, Toppin for Texas Tech is doing a jump pass, kind of contorts his body, gets off balance, and his leg comes up like Draymond Green has done in the past and kicks, I think it was Roberts, right in the nuts.
So he meant to do it?
I don't know. This is the controversy here.
Okay.
So the leg definitely kicks him in the groin. Like that, there's no doubt it happened. So they go to the monitor and they assess a flagrant 2, which means an automatic ejection. So kid doesn't even know he's ejected. They go tell him he's ejected. He's got what? What are you talking about? I'm ejected. And then McCaslin, the Tech coach, looks at the sports communications guy's monitor, the TV monitor right on the, and then he loses it. And you could see him saying he was passing the ball. He was passing the ball, meaning he wasn't trying to kick a guy. He was just oddly contorted and kicked the guy. So then he's livid. He loses it. They give him 2 Ts and they toss him. So 5 minutes into the game, Tech's out their top scorer and their head coach.
Wow.
In Houston.
What a win.
And Houston had won. Iowa State just lost its 29 home game winning streak. Houston won 33 in a row at the Fertitta Center.
Wow.
And then Houston, it was a war all game. Tech showed amazing toughness. So did Houston. It was a great atmosphere. There were a lot of Tech fans there for some reason.
Well, that win at Tech looks better and better every day.
That's where I'm going next. So it goes right down the wire. Houston looks like they haven't won. It gets into overtime, and, man, McMillan, Williams, and Anderson hit some monster shots. Those guys, that win for Iowa State looks incredible. That, K-State you thought would be the win of the day. Tech just jumps. I mean, again, winning by 20 in Hilton's a huge deal. Don't get me wrong. But Tech just put themselves directly in the conversation for now a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. You're looking at them, C-Dub. They haven't lost since they lost to Iowa State. They have now reeled off 6 in a row, and they are now ahead of Iowa State in the standings and projected to be ahead of Iowa State via KenPom.
Wow.
So they've now entered the conversation. And to your point, Iowa State's win in Lubbock is probably the second or third best win in the Big 12 right now, next to Tech winning at Houston and Houston winning at Kansas. And then you could put K-State winning at Iowa State. They're all in the same category. Iowa State's win over Tech is even better because they won't play again.
Yeah.
And you are now just honestly what they've done there. You're going to be right in the same conversation for them potentially on the seed situation in the NCAA tournament. And Iowa State's head-to-head win in Lubbock is going to look great come tournament time. So that win, Iowa State, again, horrible loss. That win looks even better, though. So that's kind of the silver lining. And big shout-out to Tech. Man, they are tough. They played hard, and it kind of reaffirmed what we thought.
Yeah,
that
we
win
thought they
Iowa
were
State
really
had
good.
there was
The
really impressive.
other note is by beating Iowa State, Kansas State jumped into Quad 2 territory. So
It's still a bad loss.
it's still a bad loss, but at least you didn't lose a Quad 3 game, which is what that was.
I'm really curious what they do the rest of the way, K-State. Because talent-wise, everybody saw it who was there yesterday. Those guys they've got talent.
Well,
It's
that's
just
like we were killing Tang earlier in the year
Exactly.
because we thought they were really talented.
They are. They are. I mean, those guys were good. They just, for some reason, for a while, they didn't want to play hard, and now they started playing hard, and look what could happen. They've now won 3 games by 20-plus
They
in a row.
go to Arizona State this week, and then they get Kansas at home, both Quad 1 opportunities.
Well, I bet if they win at Arizona State, man, what does Ken Palm have that at? That's a wild one. I don't know how you assess K-State at this point.
Arizona
I really
State
don't.
by 4 in that game.
I bet C-Dub when that game comes
if I
out
were you guys, I would blindly bet Kansas State every game for the next 2 weeks.
until Vegas figures it out.
Yeah.
because
Their
have
metrics
clearly
still suck.
yes, and
I
maybe
would
they'll
just blindly
regress.
bet on them. Yeah,
Maybe they regress to the mean, back to where they have been. But that team in Ames on Saturday was not the same team that lost to Wichita by 15.
Yeah, this is not the same team that lost to Houston by 30.
Correct.
Like, they've clearly figured something out.
Yeah. Now,
can they hold on to it? I don't know.
That's the question with them. Is they're a little bit.
I mean,
flaky,
you look
but
at their last 3 games, though, Brent. Like they've won all these games by double digits.
Yeah.
They're killing teams right now.
Yeah, I know. It's again fascinating subplot. So, Tech huge win at Houston. Now the question is, how does Houston respond? And I think we're in for a fun couple of weeks here because Baylor's win surprised me. I did not see them coming back and destroying Kansas as it did in the second half, and they showed some toughness. So Arizona played really well yesterday. It's starting to kind of, as we thought might happen. We thought early it might just be a runaway between Iowa State and Houston. You give these coaches who are all really good a chance to scout game after game after game. You go on the road in tough environments. This is what can happen.
The Arizona State game. So our guy Bobby Hurley, who's the biggest villain right now? Dan Hurley, Bobby Hurley, or Mick Cronin in college basketball?
Tang looks normal now.
Yeah, Tang's like a nice guy compared to these guys. So, again, I'm covering the game. This was an early game. I didn't get to watch this game live. I do see the Bobby Hurley press conference when he's like threatening Kevin Love that he votes for the all Big 12.
Caleb Love, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
sorry. And he's like, I'm not going to vote him all Big 12. And he's being like super petty. And he pulls his team off the court and refuses to shake Arizona's hand. What in the hell happened?
Yeah, so this was a rivalry game. It's kind of weird that Arizona and Arizona State are playing in a Big 12 game, but it is. And apparently Arizona was chirping a lot. Those guys, and I noticed in the Iowa State game, they
are.
They
That's
chirp.
just what they do.
Yep, they chirp. And they
Caleb
chirping.
Love has a reputation.
He does. He's really good, so he backs it
Yeah.
up. But he was chirping all game at the bench, and so it was like I watched it back this morning. It was pretty contentious all game long.
Who was officiating that game? Do you know?
Oh man, it was
Anybody worth a damn? I guess. Or was it
Well,
like
that was the
our game
problem.
yesterday
Again,
that
it's-
completely gets?
That is I would say there's so.
This is why it matters, people. This is exactly what we talk about. This is why, not all of these guys on these Saturday games are created equal. They're just not.
On that note, you probably didn't see this yet, but the Texas Tech AD had a very harshly worded statement towards the Big 12 after the game, even after a win, and said he's been in conversation with Brett Yormark, and we're going to address this situation about that ejection for Toppin when he accidentally kicked the guy.
I just watched it. What?
That's a hard one, by the way.
I don't necessarily I don't agree with it. I don't think
I don't either.
But isn't the letter of the law isn't official? I mean, are they supposed to use discretion in that? I don't know. You tell me.
Thank you for bringing that up. They've tried to take intent out of it because how do I know what your intent is?
Yeah, that's what I thought. So what is that ref supposed to do?
The guy kicked him in the nuts.
Yeah.
That by letter of the law could be a flagrant 2. Now, clearly, I don't think the guy meant to kick him in the nuts, but he kicked him in the nuts. This is really hard as an official because if you don't eject him, and then your supervisor says, "Well, it says that you should have ejected," someone's going to be upset there, and it makes a really tough spot. But I don't know. I
really like McCaslin, by the way.
Yeah, and I get on his end, he's right. That guy did not mean to do it. However, they've tried to take that's why it's not an intentional foul anymore, everybody. It's a flagrant.
Yeah, that's why they don't call it that.
It's basically it has to be severe, brutal, or there's another term for it. And I would argue that was pretty brutal, get kicked in the nuts. But yeah, so then the Hoka, the Texas Tech AD, has a statement saying this is unacceptable. Yormark's going to address it, yada yada yada. So we've seen the theme yesterday was officiated in some context. But you're right, it was not a great crew for Arizona. And then what Hurley didn't really mention is his guy headbutted Caleb Love with under a minute left, and he got ejected. And then Love got ejected for arguing with that guy. So
what is it with these Hurley guys? What's going on here?
I don't know. I mean,
it was a bizarre day. Don't you talk down to my guy Tommy Lloyd? That's my guy.
Well, so big win for Arizona.
What did Tommy Lloyd? Did he say anything after the game?
I didn't see his comments.
I can't see Tommy Lloyd throwing too much fire back. But.
No, I can't. I'm
what
guessing.
What do you need to mouth off to Bobby? We just kicked your ass. I think
it's like looking at that little chihuahua in the corner. Okay, yeah, keep it up.
Yeah, that
wild day though, wild day. And but to your point, let me circle way back. When you have some less experienced officials, some of these things can get out of control, and I think we saw that in certain situations yesterday.
Well, and I've come to appreciate this more with Otzelball because of we used to talk about this all the time when Fred Hoiberg was the head coach and you're playing Bob Huggins teams. We've had these conversations on this show, and I'm like, Brent, they foul every time. What do you They can't call right? Well, and then that kind of turns into who you are. And really all you want is some consistency on a game-to-game basis and even on a play-to-play basis.
Yep.
That's really all we're – and I've come to appreciate that watching these Big 12 games over the years, though, because they're so physical.
And it's hard. It's a hard job. I know sometimes how do you miss that? It's still big people moving really, really fast and physically.
I got to give Travis Hines from the Des Moines Register – props. He texted me when those guys walked out there, and he said, "Uh-oh." And not Iowa State's going to lose, just of all the games you felt like you needed real officials.
Some adults, yeah. That was weird.
That place was a powder keg. I was almost uncomfortable the 5 minutes leading up to Tang coming, and then it was really anticlimactic. Honestly, you get your ass kicked and it changes everything. But honestly, Tang was perfectly fine. He was just smiling and waving at people, and it wasn't.
How was his post game?
It was really good.
Okay. Did they anybody?
No, it was more
no
what
drama.
do you do? You can't bring that up. You
no, I get it.
I thought Tang was fantastic. He talked about how much respect he has for Otz, and he said he did give us a Tommy Lloyd quote. He said, when they are healthy, they could win a national championship. And he was alluding to, I think these coaches, again, this is why I'm not that confident for Monday, because I think that they've all kind of figured it out, but they know the importance of that guy and just everything that Iowa State does. Now, again, what can Iowa State do to counter this? You can't just keep doing the same thing.
Correct.
And that's where I think I know the head coach pretty well and his mindset. And if you listen to his press conference, he telegraphed it.
Yep.
High pressure defense.
They're going to turn it up.
Yes.
You got to turn it up.
That's where this thing turns around.
Yep. You got to turn it up. And if you get called for fouls, oh well. I think that's the attitude Monday. It's if they're calling it, we'll figure it out. But you cannot let Kansas dictate terms inside.
Correct.
And
you've got to just bring it and go back to the root canal ball. And listen, like, I'm pretty confident that Curtis Jones can hit some threes in transition. Hell of a lot more than I am in the half court, right? Like, that is not the answer at this point in time for this team. So how do you stave this thing off? It's got to start on the
defensive. Get back to
defensive
basics. And that this is what can happen when you have a lot more efficient offense throughout the year. Is sometimes your defense, because it's not the desperation time as it was in the first couple of years of the odds era. It was like, we need to stop or else we're not going to win.
Yeah.
You kind of get in that false sense of, the Hoiberg stuff, right? We can just score with them. We'll kind of counterpunch. We'll toy with them a little bit, and we'll put them away. I think Iowa State literally at times is like, okay, well, this game's close. We'll put them away in the second half. And then K-State comes out with that run in the second half, and it's like, oh, no. We can't get out of this hole.
They jumped out and outscored Iowa State 21-6 to start the second half.
Iowa State's been good enough offensively. You get into a false sense of, we can just kind of hang around and be okay, and that's not going to work. That's not going to work against well-scouted, well-coached teams.
Yeah, that's the difference is the scouting, and again, like now it's on Iowa State's coaches and players to adjust.
Yep. And get some confidence. I know it's hard for me to say, hey, get some confidence back, but that's a big part of it too. I would love to see Nate. Man, Nate's had a rough stretch here. I'm not giving up on him. And neither are the coaches. I think everyone believes in him. Just needs something to go right for him. He's too good.
Man, and if you could just, we talk about this, if Jefferson and Watson could just give you something early in these games, spread things out just a little bit, and they just can't be zeros out there. Like Iowa State has good players, but the problem is these guards are all kind of similar in the sense of like what they do. Hey, and listen, can we give a shout out? Lipsy's playing great right now.
He is.
Yeah, he's playing really well.
Great.
He's carrying the team right now.
Yep, and they've needed it in every single bit. So Iowa State's going to be. This is a fun game Monday. I'm glad it's put your hard hat back on, and this is a toughness game. You may not win, but your effort's got to be better.
Well said, my friend. Well, enjoy your Sunday. To everybody out there, we appreciate you. We appreciate our title sponsor, our friends at Mechdyne. All they do for us here on the Cyclone Fanatic Podcast Network. Williams Blum Wednesday will be back. I'll have pre and post game for you on Monday night, 7:30 pregame, all across our social media. It's an interactive show. You can join me. Post game right after that. We have the We Will event on Wednesday night as well with the Iowa State football staff. Looking forward to seeing you all there. For Brent Blum, I'm Chris Williams. Have a great Sunday.